Good afternoon, everybody. It's Gary Brown with TUG. I want to welcome you to the UnForm webinar. For the presentation today, we have Paul Buchel, John Wilson, and Alan McGlory from UnForm. Paul's going to be doing the presentation. Paul, go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to sit through this presentation. What we're going to do today is step through, kind of from a high level, our end-to-end document management solutions, some of which can be used, by themselves. They can be used in conjunction with each other, and there's a lot of different ways that you can configure a system to be able to manage all of your documents, from the generation of the print output to getting it delivered to where it needs to be, and actually including those documents in workflows if needed. So what I'm going to do is kind of step through some slides to kind of review the concepts and how we approach certain things, mixed in with some of the actual software, so you can kind of get a look at how some of the things work, so that you can formulate some good questions for after the fact. So kind of to start out with, just a little bit about us. The company was founded in 1988. It's located actually a little north of Sacramento, but we've also got folks in Nashville, Denver, and I am in Atlanta. So SDSI is the developer of UnForm and a variety of other tools for both Linux and Windows operating systems. We've got over 9,000 installations in 16 countries, and have been an Infor solution partner since the late 90s. Just from kind of again, a high-level overview, where we start managing documents is as those forms and reports are generated out of your ERP. And they can be in the form of text, XML, PDF, or they may already have some formatting done to them, but need additional data or other tweaks done to them. We call that AFO output. But all that can be taken in through our design manager, and within the design manager, you can build very professional and active forms that can then be formatted and delivered via email, print, fax, to where they need to be when they need to be there. Most of you on this call probably are using the forms management piece as today. So that's kind of the first piece of the applications there. Then the next thing that you can tie into it is our archive solution. So anything that's coming through UnForm is automatically saved in the archive. So once you turn it on, you're going to start automatically capturing those forms and reports as you print them. So they're available in the archive. It has a browser-based retrieval application that makes it very easy to find the documents you're looking for when you're working through the various business processes throughout the day. So turning on the archive is pretty straightforward. You turn it on, you start capturing documents pretty much automatically. Very little setup involved in it at all. Another piece of the puzzle is the image manager. And the image manager is used to bring in either hard copies or other electronic copies of documents that may or may not have been generated by UnForm. So it may be used to bring in signed proof of deliveries, or if you have vendors sending you invoices via email, you don't have to necessarily print those out and scan them in. We can import the electronic documents without actually having to print them. And then the image manager is a very powerful tool that will identify and index those documents, and you can build, you can have it as automated as you want, or not. You may have jobs where you want to manually input some data. You can certainly do that. It's got the ability to use both optical character recognition and barcode recognition to get data off of a document, and we can do full text OCR on that document as well. And typically you'd set up jobs and they run in the background and bring those documents into the archive with very little human involvement required. And then any of the documents that reside in the archive are available for our workflow tool. And that workflow tool is it's a configurable tool based on whatever your particular requirements are. If you have, a good example would be if you have an approval process for your expense and overhead invoices, you can set in different people to authorize those based on a department, a dollar value, whatever your particular requirements are, and build those workflows out with those documents that are involved, and keep track of all those things. Who did, and who approved them and when. It's all logged, so it's all available for audit purposes. We can also use the image manager to extract data from a document, and then that data can be formatted based on whatever the target application is. So one of the examples we're going to talk through today is the AP automation capability. So as you bring in vendor invoices, we can actually extract, headers, totals, line item detail, all that data, format it based on whatever the particular ERP is you're working with, and push it over for import directly into your AP system. The idea is to eliminate as much data entry as possible so that you can focus on managing exceptions and other more important processes other than just keying data into the system. And then we also have Cirrus Print, which we're very excited about. It's our email to print solution, and it can take data straight from the ERP. So if you're generating documents out of your ERP, we can run those through Cirrus Print and deliver them to printers. You can also certainly use forms and reports that are run through UnForm as well, and send those through Cirrus Print. And what Cirrus Print gives you the ability to do is to deliver those forms, reports, whatever that print output is, via email to your existing printers. So you don't have to buy email-capable printers to be able to use the print-to-email solution. You don't have to route those emails through third-party vendors. You have control over it, so it's secure and it's very fast. So it eliminates a lot of the speed issues that can be inherent in cloud printing. So we've had very good luck with the speed of getting documents to printers where they need to be. You can also have those forms. They don't necessarily have to go to a printer. You can deliver them directly to someone's desktop or their phone if that's what you need. So that's kind of a high-level overview of all the different parts and pieces and applications that we have. And again, some can be used, by themselves, but when you combine them all, you've really kind of gotten control of your document management complete from the start to the finish. A lot of you are already using our print management tool, and we're very excited that we can now, if you move into a cloud suite, they have added UnForm has added a format 4 output type that produces XML data that can then be delivered via the ion transport pod to UnForm for formatting. And what we have found, the combination of the XML data with the file transport pod and Cirrus Print, we're getting pick tickets to printers and printing within 8 to 10 seconds, which is a huge speed increase over just trying to run the straight text documents through a third-party vendor and having them email those to the printers. And again, it's all secure and under your control, so you don't have to worry about someone getting a hold of your data. Right now, the UnForm has the acknowledgement, the pick ticket, the warehouse transfer, invoice, the accounts payable check, and the AR statements in the XML format. And as they continue to add those, add different documents, we'll update the rule files to be able to handle those new documents as they come out. Our archive browser, again, it's very easy to use to find the documents that are in the archive. You can look a variety of ways. You can look for a specific document. You can browse libraries. You can create easy searches that can be reused if needed to find what you're looking for. You can, once you've gotten to the documents, you can email them straight out of there or deliver them via whatever mechanism they need to be delivered. You can view the documents side by side, so you can do comparisons with the documents. And again, it's a very easy interface to use. The browser, let me step out of here for just a second. And so again, a lot of different ways to search for them. If I want to look for a specific document, I can do that. You'll notice here too, we've got a library structure. This is something that can be configured by you based on whatever your particular requirements are. And then you can build users and user security around these libraries too, so that only the folks that need to get access to the particular documents would have them. And again, you can build these libraries and configure them based on whatever your particular needs are. In this one, I'm going to look for a specific check, AP check. You'll see when I start typing, the more I type, the more it'll filter these results. Let me move this for just a second. So then once I've selected the document I want, it'll go ahead and launch it. So here I've found the check I want. Again, I just, when I started out, I'm just looking for a check. But one of the things that happens is as these documents are coming into the archive, regardless of how or when they're coming in, we're able to link documents together that have common indexing information. So in this example, my check has invoice numbers and PO numbers and remittance advice. So if I need to, I can get to an invoice and review that. And if I need to take a look at the purchase order, I can drill down to that as well. So again, I've got all the documents in there. And once I found one end of the transaction, it's easy to find any of the other documents that are in there related to that particular transaction. And again, from here, if I need to, I can email it or fax it to whoever it is that I'm working with to resolve whatever the particular issue is. And again, that's one method to find them. I looked for a document and was able to drill down to the other documents on it. I can also come in and use browse and just pick a particular library to browse through. And just a second, I got a lot of stuff running on this laptop, so response is a little slow. But I can also do searches for documents too. So in here, I can come in and build a search, and I can save these if I need to. So if I want to come in and look for search, I can give it a name, pick the library I'm looking for, give it a name. Excuse me. And run it. And it'll run a search and get the check that I'm looking for. And in this one, it's also going to pull in the invoices that check paid. So again, I can get to all those documents very quickly and easily. If I need to look at them side by side on my screen and do some comparisons, I can do that. I can pick, the check, the purchase order, and an invoice, and view them all at the same time and do my comparisons, figure out whatever it is I'm looking for. So again, really easy to find what you're looking for and get to the information you need to be able to resolve whatever the particular business challenges you're working on for that day. Jump back over here. So again, the archive browser, very quick and easy way to find what you're looking for. A lot of different ways to search, and all the documents that share common indexing information are automatically linked together when they go in, regardless of how and when they're getting there. The image manager is the tool or the application that's used to bring in either third-party documents or again, it could be a document that was generated by your ERP that had some value added to it, like a signature or whatever it may be. So again, you can scan documents in or import them in. Jobs can be very automated or not, just depending on what the particular document you're bringing in and what the indexing values required are. We've got both barcode and zoned OCR capability in there, and in conjunction with the ability to do ODBC lookups against your ERP database, they can be very powerful tools for getting documents in very quickly and easily while minimizing the data entry required to get those documents indexed. So I can have a job definition set up to read a barcode, pull a order number off of a document, then I can pull the balance of whatever information I want to use to index that document straight out of the SX.e or A+ or whatever database you're working with, and get those documents in there very quickly and easily. And again, we can do full text OCR on those as well, and it's a very quick search when you're using the text searches to find what it is you're looking for. Again, jobs can be very simple, or you can make them very automated. So I'm going to show you just a quick example here of a fairly straightforward job definition. I'm going to bring in this example, I've got some signed proof of deliveries. So when I import those, I'm going to use a couple pieces of the technology to get these in there quickly and easily. And typically, you'd set this job up to run on an automated basis. So it would monitor a directory, and as you scanned documents to that directory based on the schedule, it could pick them up and run them, and really go ahead and finish all the documents that passed the validations. So if the documents came in and everything looked good, it'd go ahead and finish them. You wouldn't have to touch them at all. But if if there were any that had exceptions, you'd come in here and correct them. So this is a pretty simple job. All we did was brought these. We brought these in, and we're able to read the barcode on this particular document and picked up an order number, and we're able to get all the information we need to index that document straight from there. If you're generating picking tickets, or you've got proof of deliveries that are coming back in, you don't have barcodes on them, and you can just manually index them. Pretty easy. You just enter your sales order number here, and it would pick up whatever other information we'd need to index it using the ODBC capability. And then you have the ability to merge the different, once you've got them all the order numbers in here, you can merge those that share the same order number, so your multi-page stuff's pretty straightforward to do. So again, this is a pretty simple, straightforward job definition. I'm reading a barcode, getting an order number, shooting these into the system. Again, with the barcodes, it's a very dependable technology, so you get a pretty good hit rate. You're rarely having to manage any exceptions on this. So you'd set this up to run, and it would run, and someone would just monitor periodically for exceptions, and you're good to go. So let me, before I jump out of here, I want to kick off another job that we're going to look at in just a minute. So again, that was a pretty simple job. I'm going to kick off one that's a little more complex, that does a little more work on the documents than what we just saw. And hit that, and then we'll come over and talk about what we're doing. So again, we're in the image manager. We just looked at a pretty straightforward job. I've got another more complex job running now. But again, it's a very powerful tool. The jobs can be scripted, so you've got just a lot of flexibility about how they'll work and what they'll do for you. So the workflow capability, what we're going to look at is how it would fit in with a AP automation scenario. So as the documents are coming into the archive, they become available to the workflow tool. And then depending on the type of document, if it's a, you know, a trade invoice as opposed to an expense invoice, I can set up different requirements for that. So if it's trade invoice, I may want to ensure that prior to processing it, that I've got a copy of both the invoice, the purchase order, and any receiving documents available to me. So those can come in into here. We can validate we have all the documents required for that particular transaction before moving it on. If with expense or overhead invoices, you can set different dollar values based on, you know, it can be based on a department. So you can have, you know, the IT department, so, you know, you may have a person that can authorize expenses up to $500. Anything that's $500 to $1,000, the manager has to approve. If it's over that, you know, route it to the controller. So it has those capabilities. It's configurable based on what your requirements are. And again, the idea here is to help manage the flow of that paper and making sure it's getting to the right people at the right time to get those transactions, you know, paid when they need to be paid, so that we can not only earn those discounts that are so important, but you know, get those expense invoices approved and set up for payment as quickly as possible. So the way, from kind of a high-level overview, the way the AP automation piece works starts with, again, bringing the invoices in. So in this example, we're talking about trade invoices. If they're coming in as hard copies, you'd scan them to a directory, you know, specific directory. If they're coming in electronic, you can, you know, drag and drop them in that directory. There's also, depending on what you use for your email tools, there's a lot of third-party applications out there that can take the attachments off the emails and drop them in the appropriate directory for you. There, the image manager is going to pick it up. It's going to identify the sender, and based on who sent it, it will determine, you know, where it needs to go on that particular document to find, you know, the line item details, the, you know, freight amounts, invoice totals, all those different things. So as it comes in, it will identify who sent it and then where the key data elements are that are required to create an electronic transaction. Now, you will have to do a one-time setup for each vendor that, you know, to indicate where those data elements are. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's pretty quick and easy. And you start with a, you know, kind of a generic form, and as you add vendors, you're modifying that particular job def, saving it with the new parameters in it, so that it knows based on what vendor has sent that document where it needs to go to look. There's validations done on the data extracted, so it'll do the math on the document for you, verify that the header and footer meet, that the line item extensions are correct. So that's just another validation step to make sure that the data is extracted as accurately as possible. The documents would go, you know, from Image Manager into the archive. The data gets batched up for release. So again, depending on the target application, if it's SX.e, we create the EDI10i.dax file. You can push that over to be imported into the AP Invoice Center. So again, the idea here is to extract the data as accurately as possible, do the validation steps on it to ensure that it's accurate. Then we can push it, format it based on the target application, and get that data into the system so that it can be processed, you know, as quickly as possible while minimizing the data entry required to get it in there. So let's see. I think we jump back over here. So this is an example of invoices that are coming in, and we're extracting all the data off of them. So again, this job would be set up on a schedule, be running in the background, and again, you can automate as much as you want. But in this case, we were able to come in, and we used various pieces of the technology here, both zoned and full text OCR, to grab the data elements that we need to be able to create that electronic transaction. You'll see here, here's where my header information is. This is also, if I need to edit, I can make my edits here, but it will go through and validate the totals and the add-ons and amounts, those kinds of things, and make sure it all that the math is correct on the data that was extracted. The line items also were extracted as well. So, and again, we validate, we do the extension here and make sure that quantity and price extends to the total that we captured. So again, it's all based on this particular vendor and where they send stuff to. As the new vendors come in, it's pretty easy to update these. So here's, you'll see over here, this my zone is is where I'm looking for the PO number, and I'm using optical character recognition to grab that information. If a different vendor sends it in a different spot, you can just move it to wherever that particular vendor is sending it, and then you save it with that vendor's name, so that the next time that vendor's invoices came through, it would recognize who it is, and then based on the tweaks, you may know where to go to get that data required for to create that transaction. So again, Image Manager is a very, very powerful tool. There's a lot of capability built into it. So you can make things as automated as you want to, or again, you can have manual jobs as well, where you have to key in some data to get the documents in. So again, that's the AP automation piece and kind of how we approach it. And then kind of one of the last things I wanted to step through is our Cirrus Print application. So Cirrus Print allows you to manage and streamline the printing, whether it's over networks or if you're moving to the cloud, then it's a great way to manage the printing from cloud applications. If you have if you're currently having issues too, just printing over your network with speed, it can help resolve those issues as well. It runs on either Windows or Linux. It has patent pending compression technology built into it, so in some cases we're getting up to 95% compression on the data prior to sending it to the printer. So again, it's all about speed to print, and it doesn't require special printers. You can continue to use your existing printers. So if we look over here, you can set up your existing printers to receive the data and print it. So you're not having to buy special printers or route that data through third-party vendors to get it to you, because not only does that increase costs, it takes a long time to get information to the printers. You can, in some cases, it could take 2 minutes to print a pick ticket at the counter, which is a long time when you got, contractors staring back at you. It's a very quick install. It's very straightforward to configure, and again, it can be used, in conjunction with UnForm for your forms, or not. You can simply send data straight from the ERP through Cirrus Print to resolve your email to print requirements. It will, you can also have it delivered, in addition to printers, you can have it delivered to, straight to someone's desktop or phone. It's all there, and then if they need to actually physically print it, they can download a copy and print it from here. You can submit, if you have the client, browser client loaded up, you can actually submit documents to it from here as well. So I could grab a document and send it to a printer at another location if I needed to. So it's a very flexible, robust tool to manage your printing, and it's a very reasonably priced solution as well. So that was, I believe, Gary, I think that's everything that we had planned to cover. And how did we do on time there? Not too bad. I think we're right on the money.
2:33, yeah, that's about a half an hour presentation. There's a couple of questions out there. John, do you want to handle them?
Yes, I will do that. Just opening up a that right now. So we got one question about what version of SX is this compatible with? The question came in. Will it work with SX.e 10.3.0? That was submitted by Ed, and the answer to that is yes. Any other questions related to that? We could address those right at this moment. Let's see. Next one came in from David, and this question was, what's the average time it takes to map a vendor invoice with regard to the designer tool? How many can a site deploy, and where do you recommend the image manager to reside? Let's take those two to begin with. If you're talking about designing a specific document and you're using SX.e or some of the other distribution products, those have already been predefined. So essentially what you're talking about is taking and using a design tool to make any minor structural changes related to those documents. If there's additional data mapped coming out of the system that you need to get on documents. So you consider that being pretty minor in terms of what you need to do. In most cases, a lot of people are taking our standard forms and essentially really only changing the company information related to logo, addressing, and things like that. That can just be done in a matter of minutes with Design Tool. If you're talking about complete design of a new document from scratch, generally speaking, once you kind of become proficient with the Design Tool, it could be a couple of hours to do that. Once you use the Design Tool to either update or create the rule set, what we call the rule file with many different forms in there, that's just going to reside on the server. You only need one copy of the Design Tool. It's a browser-based, so as many people that get proficient on the Design Tool can work within it, and then you deploy the actual rules to where the UnForm server software is residing. So, and that would be reachable by anywhere on the system. Let's see. There's a question that came in from Joseph, looks like, asking, are all modules priced individually? And the answer to that is yes. You only have to purchase the tools that you need to accomplish what your specific company goals are. You can go standalone print management. Once that's available, there's an option to add any of the other components by licensing those and getting a new license key, which makes those operational. Let's see. The next question that came in from looks like Gregory. This is Image Manager seems to be search-based versus field category. May need more clarification by what you actually mean there. Image Manager is, if you're talking about Image Manager versus the Design Tool, it's not clear what you mean. if this is Gregory, maybe Gary, you can unmute him and let him maybe explain what he is referencing there.
I'll give it a shot. Greg, I unmuted you.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
So obviously when you take a form in and you parse it, you get the vendor, you get the invoice number, you get a lot of attributes or tags, whatever you may call it. I didn't see in the image manager where you could say, you know, put in a vendor name versus just search generally for a vendor name, you know, like a field that might be, say, for example, vendor name. I didn't see any kind of breakout in search of attributes that you may break down so that you can write that data to an ERP system. You follow my question?
So
Yeah.
you're talking about like over here where you could, so these are job definitions that can be built based on whatever your particular requirements are. So yeah, you can put, you could have a field for the vendor name there and add it, either key it in or actually look it up against the ERP database and pull it from OS. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think I'm talking a little more about where you would query it, right? So maybe not in the managers. Maybe I put the wrong tool name in there, but
oh, if you're looking for a particular document.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so over. So looking over in here. So yeah, you can do that. Yeah. So you would be able to do that. You could do that in that search I was just in. And again, that's probably the best way to do it. So from here, if you're looking for a vendor, you could do a search just based on a vendor name in here. And it could pull it, then, you know, you could limit it based on a date range or whatever else you're looking for. So you've got down here, you can do that. So you can look based on keywords. So that's where you could put your vendor name in. You've got dates and times, so you could have dates and times in here as well. So within the archive, using the various retrieval capabilities, yes, you can absolutely do that.
Good.
You also have, Paul probably didn't mention the browse capability within the documents where vendor names would be a primary index. I know there was an issue before opening those up.
Yeah,
those are all particular ways of finding information as well.
Not sure who's.
Hold on, let me go ahead and unmute him.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Did we answer your questions, Gregory?
Well, I unmuted him. Unmuted him rather.
Okay.
Okay.
Gregory.
But then, yeah, again, here in Browse, again, you can look for a specific vendor, a name or number, whatever. Also, too, I think, John, the one question, too, about the mapping of vendor, I think that was on the image manager side, is creating that template. So, again, it's a pretty quick way to do it, and it's one of those things, the more you do, the better you get at it. So, when you start now, you can update this template right here and then test it again right here too. So, once you've gotten some training and done it for a couple of days, you're looking at maybe 5 to 10 minutes to create those, to map a new vendor that's coming in through here. And I think that was the question. Okay.
We do have a few more questions, so we're gonna take a look at this. The next person up was Denise. Asked a question about, does this work with earlier versions of SX.e? Yes, it does. We actually have our product installed all the way back into some of the SX.e version 5s. But there's some limited functionality because of the nature of that, and probably most are installed on the most recent versions or back at version 6.4 up through 6.091, I believe. There was also a question, I think this came from Denise also, about integrating signatures to archive documents. No, that was Christian. Yes, a signature can be captured and associated with particular documents, both with the documents that are in the archive and with records in SX.e. Such as signed PIC tickets appears to be using a signature pad to connect those. Exactly, kind of what we were talking about there. There's not a specific, look, this is Tim. It's not a specific type of signature capture device that is recommended. People are familiar with Blue Dot. We're just picking up the image file from their system. So any system that can create image format that we can bring in, generally speaking, would work. Looks like maybe the last question, do we provide training? The answer to that is yes. Current version, this is Larry Zeller. What's the current version of UnForm is version 9, and it will it'll work with version 6.04 all the way up to version 11. See, looks like we got another question here. AP invoice for PO that is sent. How long should it take to map that invoice so that we can automate its processing? And I think we kind of again, it's based on the complexity of the invoices for mapping based on the image manager. Paul's even recently done some of that on his own just for demonstration purposes. Once you have the basic template designed for any kind of an invoice, if you scan that invoice into the image manager and pick a previously design template for another vendor, you're just dragging and moving the locations for zones to where it's going to pick up the correct information. The line item detail is handled, if you look at the bottom of that screen that Paul is showing, it's based on what we call a grid zone. So you just establish the grid zone. So in this case, like you have a vendor and there's a short number of fields on that form, or rather lines on that form, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say there was 10. All you would have to do is open up that grid zone and drag it to where it included all the data on that form. So, and you only have to do these typically one time. And as Paul said, if there's a problem in processing, you handle them by exception, because when it goes to process the document and match everything up, the numbers, if it doesn't correctly calculate what the totals are or the extensions are, then it's going to leave that document in the pending area at the top of the image manager until someone corrects it. Another question on our image manager, is there a plan to make the image manager web-based? Yes, there is. It's actually in development as we speak. It'll be part of our version 10 release, which is our chief architect for version 10 is Alan McGlory. He's on this call, so we don't have a target date yet for release, but web-based image manager, as we've started to move all of our products to being web UI, that's essentially the last one to convert. Looks like we got one more from Ralph Wallace in the fax world. Vendor numbers, dates, and other searchable elements are stored as categories and keywords. Yes, that would be correct. And all of the...
I think it was more of a comment than a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Also, just as a reminder, everything that we scrape from outbound documents when they print or anything inbound, when we turn on full text OCR, every piece of data on that document gets captured as an index field. So where you see a lot of systems where they require you to search for information and it is very slow, we're the opposite, because when you put in search piece of data, whether it's all of it or part of it, like a part number, it'll look at every library on the system for any document that contains that part number and immediately bring it up into a search. Since they're index values, literally very little degradation in finding documents in our system. It's not like a full text search. The searchable fields are indexes along with all the primary categories, which are indexes as well. Let's see, there's one more from Gregory. At one point you said you used ODBC, asking the question, where was that? I think Paul mentioned, I don't know in the example that we were talking about, we actually showed that, but in the processing of the vendor invoice where you need to look in your system for item numbers to verify that that's a correct item that came back on an invoice from a vendor, from a purchase order that was sent, it would use ODBC to look that up. How does, Gregory again, how does this work in the cloud? Well, essentially our product will work in the cloud exactly as it does on premise, and you have options as to whether you want a UnForm server running all of our software. It could stand up a virtual machine in the cloud to run it there, or it could be run on premise as well, even though your application is running in the cloud. For example, if you're running the N4CSD in the cloud, you could have it on a cloud machine, or you could have it on an on-premise machine. I don't know, Alan, do you have any other comments about that?
The only thing that you would not traditionally think as cloud, because it's not yet browser-based, is the image manager. However, that's a client-server product as well, so you can run the image manager on a cloud Windows server and just RDP to it, or you can run it on a local premise desktop or server and have it communicate through an SSL socket, an SSL connection up to the UnForm server. So as far as the whole suite of products, I mean, everything can run in the cloud or on-prem, and you can mix and match. The only limitation is that the image manager is still a Windows-based product, so you've got to run that on a machine that is Windows. But that can be on-prem or cloud, either way.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. We're running close to our time limit, but there was a question that came in about the image manager. Is it a standalone product? It is a product that has to be installed where it can connect to the UnForm server software for managing the processing of documents and the storing of those into the archive. So it can't live alone only. Let's see, one other question here. I think that we've got one more. N4 CSD does not support ODBC. Came in from Greg. So in terms of accessing data, if in the absence of the ODBC, UnForm does include a REST API that allows it to connect to other applications, other data sources for a retrieval of information. So that is built into UnForm version 9. Alan, again, is the expert on that. If you want a better explanation, Gregory, we can let Alan address that.
Or maybe address that offline.
We could do that.
Yeah, the REST API is actually designed for external applications to connect in and request services of the UnForm server, but there's also an ability to consume REST services built into UnForm. So, and actually in the image manager too, because that's fully scriptable. So it is true ODBC would be a limitation for CSD because you just simply can't connect up to their servers. But they do have a REST API. We don't actually have any experience with it, but it exists, and I can't imagine there would be any issue with the right knowledge of where the endpoints of that are and what sort of information is required to extract data from that.
I think that covered all of our questions, unless there's something else and somebody wants to raise a hand, we can address that. One thing that anybody that's obviously Gary's going to have a recording to go back and refresh anybody's memory, we are more than happy to provide one-on-one demonstrations of our product. If anything got your attention, piqued your interest on any of our products that we've talked about here, the contact would be Paul, and he would be happy to get you scheduled for an in-depth look at the product.
John, thank you. And this is Gary again. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me if you want. I'll certainly pass them along to the folks at UnForm. And then also, please plan to come to TUG Connects where you can talk to them live and in person. And I'm sure they'd be happy to see your smiling face. So I don't see any hands raised, John, and we are up against our limit. So I'm going to say good day to everybody. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for visiting with us, and we'll see you soon. Take care now.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.